What you're looking at could be the new way that Spright feigns use after the ban list. Now, the ban list is coming to effect on the 1st of September. You're probably seeing this after the ban list has already taken effect, but this is beforehand, but we did build the deck factoring that into consideration, running the one jet, and we're not actually using Swap Frog at all here. What we're doing is we're playing Tri-Brigade Spright. This could be the way that Spright minimizes the impact of the hits upon itself. Tri-Brigade Spright has always been a really solid strategy and was actually on the tier list very briefly towards the launch of Spright. It just fell out of favor over other Spright strategies. So this is definitely a very powerful deck, always has been, and likely will be for a while. And I think it's definitely going to be one of the more powerful ways of playing it post-ban list, because it doesn't really rely upon the cards that are being hit. So I picked it up, I was learning it alongside one of the members of the Discord who actually built the deck list. We made some small modifications, but mostly it was him building it, and I was just sort of learning to play it and making wee changes here and there. So we built this, we played it. It does take a little bit of learning. More than once, I fucked myself over by putting a monster in the wrong zone, by moving something to the incorrect place, by not leaving enough materials, blah, blah, blah. So there is a little bit of a learning curve. You will need to play quite a number of games of this deck before it really sticks. But after a little while, you'll see the power, you'll see the versatility, you'll see the comeback potential of this deck. It just has shitloads of gas. It just keeps on playing, keeps on gunning, keeps on trucking, and it will win you games that you have absolutely no right winning. So we have a few replays lined up, sort of good ones, bad ones, to show off good plays, to show off mistakes, to show off sort of pure Spright, pure Tri, whatever. Showing off a few of the different aspects of the deck. So if you're interested in this or any other deck list that we do for that matter, you can feel free to subscribe. We do new content every single day. So if you want to catch new deck lists as they come out, make sure you subscribe and like the video if you enjoy watching. And if you have the means and ability to do so, and you feel like showing that little bit of extra support, we of course have memberships that are available. We, at the time of recording, have 5 members, all of whom is extremely appreciated. They're going to be the first generation of the Converged that then lead, hopefully, into the development of a membership community that I can put up additional features for, that I can run live streams for, that I can do X, Y, or Z. At the moment, though, we need to get enough members so that YouTube actually gives us the toys we need to play. And at that stage, we can then develop that into something real. But yes, if you want to be a part of that progenital group of the Converged, by all means, links right there below. You just hit join. But even if you don't want to do that, just subscribing, like the video is more than enough support. Leaving a comment, of course, as well, if you have something to say. But I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into game 1 here, opening up a very solid hand. We are playing against Endymion, though. Luckily, we have that Max E to sort of put them on hold. We can slow them down a little bit. They're going to go for the Magister gonna draw one off of Upstart because set won't pass. Okay, very solid turn. That's fine. We have plenty of room to maneuver here. We're gonna go for Tinky grabbing us a Fractal. We already have Fractal in hand, but there's nothing else really to grab. We're gonna drop a Fractal, drop a kit them, drop a Nerval, or it would do if he didn't have Called By. He probably drew that off the Upstart because otherwise he probably would have hit Max E. But it is what it is. What are you gonna do? They are going to banish our kit, which is unfortunate. But what are you gonna do? So normal summon out the Beaver summon Angler. Now they're going to go Garuda bouncing it back to hand. They're not allowing us to play the game, except we didn't ask for permission. We're going to go Spright Blue from deck. Blue gets searching for Jet. Jet then, of course, will special summon out of the field. We'll use its effect to search for Gamma. We're going to push for Lethal here. We're going to use these two going into Spright, Sprint, get milling. We're going to send the Angler from the deck to the graveyard. We play 2 for a reason. We're going to summon out 2 Beavers from deck, using 2 cards going into the gigantic Spright, summoning it over towards the left. Positioning is important in this deck. It is very important. Be aware of your link zones. Try to keep them free if you can. Bringing back the Jet, activating Karas. Gonna banish 2, summon out the Ancient Warriors. At that point, we activate Gamma Burst, swing for lethal damage. There you go. That's us playing through interruptions, playing through several points of interruption, and showing off some of the synergy with the deck. Again, it's a lot of fun. There's quite a lot of points of synergy because your kit's level 2, Karas is level 2, your Ferjit is linked to, your Burbrum is linked to, your Ancient Warriors is linked to. All of these cards have a lot of synergy with the Spright cards, which rely upon those level, link, on rank 2 monsters. So, really fun game to start off with. Let's get in the game too. While that Gale 1 might have reminded you a lot of a regular Spright deck, this time we're going to focus on the Tri-Brigade cards. So we're going to use Fractal, Fractal send Kit, Kit send Nerval, Nerval search Karas. That's the basic Tri-Brigade line. That's basically what you want to do with a Fractal, right? It just puts a bunch of beasts in your graveyard, and we're going to talk why in more detail. Well, I guess we can mention it now. All of your Tri-Brigades can basically banish Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast from the graveyard in order to link summon into a variety of their different Tri-Beast, essentially, link monsters. If I say Tri-Beast, it's referring to Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast. We just call that Tri-Beast. So basically, it allows you to bring out your Tri-Beast link monsters by banishing them from the graveyard as materials. Super cheap and affordable. Makes getting access to these cards awesome. We're going to bring out Berberum here. Berberum in the Regal. Again, this is a very basic line of play. We're not doing anything super fancy here because we didn't really open the hand to do anything super fancy, but we're relying upon the fact that we have a decent number of hand traps. We have Ash and Maxi. We have the Revolt. Revolt's one of the most disgusting trap cards in the game, and that's what we're basically relying upon to see us through to next turn. We're playing against Valence. I don't know how Valence works. I'm gonna be honest, so we're just gonna have to wing it. They do hit our Maxi with an Ash Blossom, so it's not quite as easy as game 1, unfortunately. So we do have that to contend with at the very least. They're gonna go Scion, the Valence Archer. They're gonna flip a coin. You're gonna negate Rugal's effect. I don't care, but sure, whatever makes you feel better. We're gonna take this opportunity. Actually, we're going to go for the Revolt. I chain Rugal just so that it doesn't ask me anymore. I was just sick of it asking me. Revolt, then we're going to bring back 4 Tri-Brigades from the field, from the graveyard or banish pile, and then we immediately link summon into Shureg, the Ominous Omen. Shureg on summon then banishes a card on the field without targeting. Kit then being sent to the grave for material, as well as Nerval, going to generate us a ton of advantage. They have Called by the Grave again. People really don't like our Tri-Brigades resolving in the grave, apparently. Going to banish and negate our Nerval, which is a little annoying, but that's fine. Nerval then gets negated, of course. Kit going to send Fractal to grave. Shureg going to banish the Buster Baron. And just like that, no more plays. So again, that's us playing through Call By, playing through Ash Blossom, all of these types of cards. We're sort of more reliant upon our hand traps in this type of situation. The Tri-Brigade plays by themselves are neat. I wanted to show off at least one replay of us using exclusively Tri-Brigade cards, because I wanted to show that there is something there. Absolutely. However, in terms of its ceiling relative to today's metagame, it's very limited. So that's why you really don't want to be relying too heavily upon just your Tri-Brigade cards. But it's important to know that you can, right? If you've got the right hand, the right situation, and the right opponent, you can win using just your Tri-Brigades, although your Sprights do make it a lot easier. But either way, let's get into game 3. Alright, getting into game 3 here. Slightly different hand, slightly different situation. Our opponent normal summons the Rescue Cat, which is making me think that it must be some kind of mirror match. Then they followed up with a Water Enchantress, so that has me a little bit like on the edge. And then they got Called By for our Ash Blossom, so automatically, not good. Not a great situation, I'm not gonna lie. This is not looking good for us here. Quite a few interruptions that got on the board. They're going to go for the Rite of Aramis here, of course. Rite of Aramis here would conflict quite heavily with Rescue Cat, and I don't know really what the situation here is. Our opponent's not playing the greatest of deck, but it worked out because now they got the Griffin. And we really need to top deck something. We really got to top deck something. And again, this is a replay that shows off that every deck has its souls, right? I hate showing off videos that are all wins. I hate that. I don't like doing that. We draw in the Kit. Now, the problem with Kit is that, of course, they have an Omni Negate on the board. And this is part of where the Tri-Brigade version struggles, is that it can be somewhat susceptible to interruption. We're going to normal summon Kit like we would. We're going to take out the Rescue Cat because we might as well. Main phase 2, we're going to link off in the Salamangreat Almirage just to see if he does, in fact, use the Griffin. Of course he does. And here, our position is extremely rough. And again, it's not a great showing for the deck, but that's because I want to show off that it's not going to be as bulletproof as pre-banless Spright, because a lot of these cards are reliant upon other cards. You really want to see your Fractal, you really want to see your Tenki, you really want to see these types of cards in your hand before you can get any major gas going. Our opponent here, they're playing Scarclaw. We don't exactly have a lot that we can do about this. We didn't have any Spright cards to be banishing off of Smashers, nor to banish anything. Our opponent, though, is playing something really cool. A large part of why I wanted to save this replay is my opponent's deck is actually beast as hell. I actually really love their deck. The Visa Starfrost is even better now than it ever has been in Scareclaw because it's a level 6 tuner that allows you to go into the Chaos Angel, which is just a big, unaffected, meaty beat stick that protects all of your cards from being destroyed by battle, which means your Lightheart can't be destroyed by battle or anything. Your Adventure Token becomes a lot more resilient. Chaos Angel in Scareclaw, unironically, pretty fucking good. I'm a fan. But anyway, Lipo! Unfortunate. So, that replay was twofold. Number one, I wanted to show you that the deck isn't bulletproof. I'm not trying to sell you something that is absolutely 100% disgusting and broken and blah blah blah, 100% win rate. No, that's not what this is. This is a variation of Spright, and just like Spright, if you get hit at the wrong time by the wrong card, and you don't have any extenders, then you're fucked. It's that easy. It's that simple. And I also wanted to show off my opponent's deck, because that was cool. A bit of conflict in his deck, but it does make me want to really play Scareclaws, because that deck is awesome. I really want to play Scareclaws, but it is hella expensive, and I just built Draco Slayers, and you pockets are fucking dry. You boys' pockets are fucking empty. But anyways, I'm not going to ramble. Let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, so let's talk about Spright Tri-Brigade. This deck is definitely very powerful. I can see this being extremely good in the wake of the new meta, with Tearlament's popularity going down, Branded getting less powerful. Spright itself, it is getting tapped, so I feel like this version is going to be more prominent compared to the pure version than it was in the past. Is it going to be better than the pure version? I don't know. There are still a lot of restrictions and stipulations placed upon this deck that require a more methodical method of play rather than playing just regular Sprites. So you do definitely need to use your brain a little bit more here than you do with Spright, because regular Spright is just click glowing button. This deck you definitely need to be a lot more careful with, and it definitely does have a higher skill ceiling than regular Spright. So if you want to pick it up, again, including myself, I'm not going to pretend to be a master of this, absolutely not. But we do have members in the Discord who are much more experienced playing it than I am, and they were sort of giving me a hand. So if you want to get tips from the masters, Discord is open, anyone can join. But this is the deck list, let's talk through it. We'll split it into a couple of different packages. First and foremost, hand traps. We got the anti-Maxi package, we got triple Maxi, we got triple Ash, double Call By, single Crossout. I'm gonna keep saying it until they ban it. Gotta play around Maxi. Then we even have room for double Imperm. Now you have less room for regular hand traps in this version of the deck than you do in the pure version, which is something to consider, but ultimately you're trading hand traps for starters, so it works out, it's fine. And we've got the Tri-Brigade package, we'll talk about Tri-Brigades. We got Nerval, double Nerval, double Karas, triple Kit, and double Fractal. That's our monster base. We also have the Revolt and the Tenki. So how does it work? All of these guys, all four of your main deck Tri-Brigade cards, they all have a common effect where you can banish any number of Tri-Beasts from your graveyard to special summon a monster with a link rating equivalent to a number of monsters that you banished. But for the rest of this turn, you can only use Tri-Beasts as link materials. That means you cannot link summon with your Spright cards. It means you cannot link summon with your Nimble Angler. So that is worth bearing in mind. You maybe don't want to be using that effect right out the bat unless you feel like you can link your way through using just your Beast cards, which may be a bit of a struggle. They all have that effect. And they all also have an additional effect, most of which activate in the graveyard. So 2 activate in hand, 2 activate in grave. The ones that activate in hand are Fractal and Karas. Fractal can discard itself to send a level 3 or lower Tri-Beast from deck to grave, usually your Kit. Karas can discard another Tri-Beast to special summon itself to field. So why would you want to use Fractal's effect? Well, you're going to send Kit. Kit, when sent to the graveyard, will send another Tri-Beast from deck to grave. What one are you going to send? You're going to send Nerval. Nerval, when sent to the grave, will add a Tri-Brigade monster from your deck to your hand. You're going to grab yourself Karas. So usually, discard Fractal, send Kit. Kit, send Nerval, Nerval, search Karas. Full circle. And the reason you want to do that full circle is now you have 3 Tri-Beasts in the grave, you have 1 in hand that can special summon itself, which means you can skip over using your normal summon, and it's a level 2 that can special summon itself for free. Well, not for free, for a discard. And you've got 3 Tri-Beasts in grave, which means that you can now fuel its effect to banish those Tri-Beasts in order to summon out your link monsters. So that's the point behind that combo. You fill up your graveyard, you get an extender that can summon itself for a discard, It's a level 2. Yeah, generally speaking, that's the reason why. So this card's pretty damn powerful. You're running, of course, 3 copies of Tinky, which exists exclusively to search your deck for Fractal. Some people don't play this card. I can see why, but I do definitely like having Fractal in hand, because it does help play through. Like in that last game, you saw the hand that we were playing in that last game. Tinky helps a lot in terms of playing through those kinds of hands and situations, but it doesn't guarantee it, right? So it's up to you whether or not you want to play Tinky. Ultimately, it just searches for Fractal. And lastly, in the main deck, sorry, I'm along Foolish Burial in here, even though it sort of crosses between the two. Foolish Burial Send Kit is a pretty decent play, although you'll normally use it on Angler, but sometimes you'll use it on Kit, just to trigger the whole chain of events again. Foolish Burial definitely very solid. And lastly then, Revolt, which is the whole reason the Tri-Brigade package is even worth playing. It being like level 2s and having extenders and filling the graveyard, that's neat. But if they didn't have Revolt, they would not be worth playing. What does Revolt do? Well, it brings back from your graveyard and your banish pile as many different Tri-Brigade monsters, that you can, or sorry, any Tri-Beasts in general that you have in your banish pile or grave, and then you link summon a link monster using exclusively those cards. So normally what's going to happen, you're going to bring back 4 Tri-Beasts, summon 4 monsters, then you're going to link summon during your opponent's turn into Tri-Brigade Shureg the Ominous Omen, who on summon will banish a card without targeting. Very, very powerful effect, because it's also going to trigger Kit's effect to send, Nerval's effect to search. So you even get resources back off of using the play, as well as summoning out a huge 3k monster that's going to banish one of your opponent's cards without targeting on being summoned. So that is definitely very, very impactful, especially considering this card can just be searched as part of your regular rank 2 plays. So definitely worth mentioning for sure. And then we've got our Spright engine. So I'm going to count the Nimble package is in the middle. I'm going to talk briefly about the Nimble package. Of course, Nimble Beaver is probably the best normal summon in the deck. I don't even really think it's close, because you're able to bring out a Nimble Angler and do a bunch of link plays and such. Nimble Angler, of course, when sent from the deck or hand to the graveyard, will summon up to 2 Nimble monsters from the deck and summon out 2 Beavers. Beaver being a beast is its main point of synergy with the Tri-Brigade engine, because it can be banished as part of your Tri-Beast effects, but it is also a level 2, of course, which allows you to extend into Spright. So the Nimble package is a large part of synergy between the 2 engines, and it's definitely worth bearing in mind. You definitely want to play it in this deck, even if you're not playing Swap Frog. But because you're playing the Nimble package, you could get away with playing Swap Frog. Even if it's limited to 1, it's still decent. I don't think it's decent enough to play in this particular version. I didn't want to play it, but you definitely can. So, Sprites. We got Blue, Jet, Red, and Carrot. So all of these guys will special summon themselves to the field if you control a level 2 monster. You can also summon Jet and Blue if you control a rank 2, and Carrot and Red if you control a link 2. So they special summon themselves for free if you control a level 2, essentially. They all also have effects. Blue and Jet on summon will search for a monster or a spell or trap respectively. Carrot and Red both have an effect, Red and Carrot I should say, both have effects where you contribute another level, link or rank 2 monster in order to negate a monster effect or a spell or trap effect respectively. So these 2 search, these 2 negate. Pretty straightforward. Then you've got Starter. Starter will summon any of your sprites from deck, but it does lock you into level, rank and link 2s only for the rest of that turn. Not really a huge deal because that's mainly what we're playing, but it is worth bearing in mind. So basically just summon any sprite from deck. Gamma Burst will boost all of your level, link and rank 2s by 1400 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Definitely a huge tool for pushing for lethal damage. You do sometimes brick on it though. It doesn't always feel the greatest, but you will win games because of this card. It will absolutely decimate your opponents. Again, you even saw in game 1 with that board of weak monsters, all of a sudden all of those monsters become 1400 bigger and your opponent's in trouble. They're going to lose that game. So do bear that in mind. Gamma Burst is definitely very strong, but you can brick on it. Smashers is your primary point of interruption from the main deck sprite cards. You can banish a sprite card from your hand or graveyard to then banish any level, link or rank 2 monster in your field, as well as any card on your opponent's field without targeting. So this card is pretty awesome. And it's searchable, which is great. And that's pretty much the whole main deck. Really not that complicated. A lot of the cards are very straightforward, but it's the fact that they're straightforward is what makes them very powerful. because you get so many different tools and options open to you whenever you're playing this deck. Again, it takes someone to sit and play it and play it and play it to truly master it, a lot more than even what I have. I plan on fully mastering this deck in the near enough future, because I think that this is definitely going to be one of the more, if not powerful, at least entertaining ways of playing Spright. Getting into the extra deck, of course, standard double gigantic, allows you to special summon any level 2 from deck, but it does 2 lock you for the rest of the turn. Almirage is necessary for this deck, reason being, sometimes you want a normal summon Kit or Nerval and just tribute it off to trigger off their effects for the graveyard. So you need to have Almirage, it will unbrick your hands in certain situations, and for 1 extra deck slot, it's definitely worth having. If you're concerned about crafting the card and think that maybe it's not a worthwhile investment, there is a plethora of different decks that will utilize strategies similar to this, such as Invoked or Bestial Chaos strategies with Shinobi Necro. There's a few decks that will utilize Almirage in a very similar manner, so it's not necessarily a bad investment, but I would understand if you were a little bit standoffish. But it is just extremely valuable in this deck in particular. Got Masquerena. Again, it's a Link 2, which works. A quick play Link Summon during your opponent's turn into an Avramax is a very difficult thing for your opponent to deal with in most circumstances, so a Masquerena absolutely mandatory. Ancient Warriors, double Dragon Lord. You can't actually Link Summon this card, but you can cheat it out of the extra deck using any of your Tri-Brigade's effects. This card basically allows you to send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard to bounce a face-up card your opponent controls back to hand. It's just a bounce, which is, I say just, that's pretty damn good. But this card is definitely very solid. You'll just cheat it out of your extra deck off of your Tri-Brigades. Ferrigit and Berberum are 2 Tri-Brigade Link 2s. Ferrigit will special summon a level 4 or lower Tri-Beast from hand, and it does Tri-Beast lock you, which is unfortunate. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can draw a card, then place a card back on top of the deck, or bottom of the deck, sorry, so it gets a little mulligan, and you can special summon a monster from hand. We end up not using this card a ton, but there are definitely certain situations in which this card will allow you to extend quite heavily, depending upon what your situation is. You might be able to go into like a Dragon Lord on top of what your regular board would have been, or something to that effect. So ultimately it is up to you. Definitely play it, but it's not something we used every game. Berberum. Berberum's main effect, you can ignore for the most part its first effect. The discard 2 is simply too steep a cost in vast majority of situations. But its secondary effect, where you can, whenever this card is sent to the graveyard, you'll search your deck for a Tri-Brigade spell or trap and then return one of the cards in your hand back into the deck. So very useful, because you basically get to search for Revolt by shuffling a card back in, which is awesome, because Revolt is ridiculously powerful. Got Spright Elf. Spright Elf, notoriously busted, playing 2 of it. Can't be used as Link material to turn it summoned, but that's fine. Your opponent can't target anything it points to with card effects, and once per turn you get to bring back any level, rank or Link 2 monster back from your graveyard, which is awesome. And that's especially prevalent with the new addition to the deck, the Pit Knight Early. Pit Knight Early, whenever a monster this card points to activates its effect, you can target an opponent's monster, negate its effects, and reduce its attack to 0. That is huge, because typically you want this card pointing at your Spright Elf, so that your Spright Elf then, whenever it activates its effect to bring a card back from the graveyard, you're also going to be triggering off Pit Knight Early to negate a card and reduce them to 0. So that is definitely a very powerful effect. This card also comes back during the end phase of any turn in which it's destroyed, so your opponent can't just like swing over it to get rid of it for good, because it'll always come back. Sprind. Sprind, when summoned, will send a level 2 monster from deck to graveyard. He does have other effects, but that's the main one definitely, because you're going to be sending the Nimble Angler to the graveyard to trigger its effect to summon out 2 Nimble monsters. You can also send Kit to the graveyard should you already have access to your Nimbler or it not be usable anymore. Kit is also a very solid target off of Sprind, because she'll generate a ton of graveyard resources. Love it. We got Rugal. Rugal is here almost exclusively, just to be honest, as a way to link off your Berberum into something remotely useful. That's pretty much it. His effects doesn't really do much. You can special summon a level 4 Tri-Beast back from the graveyard, and it gets bounced back to your hand during the end phase of that turn. Sometimes triggers off Shureg's effect on like turn 3 or 4. This doesn't very often come up, but it is definitely worth playing at least. Even if nothing else other than a Link 3 sort of generic target to be summoning, to be linking off your Berberum into. so you can trigger Bearbrum's effect. That's its main utility. Then we've got our 3 Link bosses. We've got Avramax, we've got Shureg, and we've got the Goddess. So Avramax, of course, everybody knows, untargetable, indestructible, you can't beat it by battle because it steals your attack points whenever you battle it. This card's absolutely insane in combination with IP Masquerena, and is a real fucking menace to try and get rid of. With Branded getting an additional little tap on the wrist, Branded's one of the main decks that have integrated outs to this card. Luckily, us Punk players have outs to this card as well in the form of Ching Ying, as does Sword Soul. So, some decks will have outs to it, but not every deck does. And even if they do, they usually have to go pretty far out of their way to get those outs onto the board. Then you got Shureg. Shureg, of course, you saw in the gameplay being summonable during your opponent's turn off the Tri-Brigade Revolt. You're basically going to get to banish an opponent's card without targeting whenever you want. Love to see it. It also has a bunch of other effects, but that's the main one. That's really the only useful one, if I'm being honest. And lastly, we have Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Kaiju. Quick play Kaiju from your extra deck. That's pretty much it. Negate your opponent's whole board on summon, and negates once per turn an effect that would special summon from the graveyard. But mainly just here because you can summon it using one monster your opponent controls, in addition to the rest of its materials. And that's the full deck. It's really not that complicated in terms of its build and each individual card, but playing it correctly does require a little bit of practice. Similar to some of the decks we've been covering recently, you do need to dance around with certain restrictions. You need to dance around the level 2 lock, you need to dance around the Tri-Beast lock, you need to dance around these things sometimes in order to truly set up your board. So sometimes just clicking buttons with this deck will lead you to situations where you've accidentally bricked up your board because more than once, for example, I would summon a kit to the wrong zone and not be able to link summon. Right, or I would lock up all my link zones and not be able to use my Tri-Brigade's effects, or I would send the wrong card off of a sprint or something like that, right? You would make mistakes. You put yourselves in positions to make mistakes. So it does require practice. Do practice with it. If you have the cards, great. Build it, use it, practice with it. I feel like this is going to be a really, really solid deck in the upcoming meta. I also want to mess around with Live Twin Spright because I feel like that deck's also going to be ridiculously solid. Probably slightly better than this, because of the Lancia lock, but Scythe lock, but we'll see how that one plays out. But anyways, that's the deck list. If you got this far into the video, subscribe, like the video, because you stuck around for a reason. It's definitely not me clipping out of my green screen. That's not why you're still here, but it's happening anyway, so what are you going to do about it? But if you got this far, like the video, subscribe if you haven't, join if it's in the cards if you feel like you want to join, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.